I'm going to address a couple political issues that have been going on over the past week that have cropped up. They're actually supposedly on the state level, but they make a whole lot of difference on the national level. First of all, Mitt Romney returning to politics by running for the Senate in Utah. Now, I don't think that I'm exaggerating when I say that Mitt Romney is basically the Republican equivalent of Hillary Clinton now, because and he literally is, because he's a former elected official. He was the governor of Massachusetts who compromised his way into the national spotlight with Romney Care. And then he had two failed presidential campaigns, one ending in the primary, that was 2008, and the other ending on the general election, that was 2012. Same thing with Hillary Clinton. She was a failed, she was a statewide politician, but going to Washington, she won the New York Senate race in 2000, carpetbagged her way into New York. I think Romney also technically, I mean, he doesn't have deep roots in Massachusetts where he was governor. So you have two carpetbaggers. So Hillary also carpetbagged her way to the New York Senate seat, basically bulldozed all of the other New York Democratic candidates out of the way, used rumors in order to move Rudy Giuliani out of the way, who would have been the only other candidate who could have beaten her. And then she has an uneventful 8 years where she's basically George Bush's best friend in the Democratic Party. So Mitt Romney, as far as I'm concerned, he has exactly the same type of record as she does, and I mean, not as so much with the criminal activities, and then with the questionable spousal issues, where I mean, I don't think there's any evidence that Ann Romney's harassed or raped anybody, so maybe he has that advantage going for him. If you're talking about in terms of political careers, his career virtually mirrors Hillary Clinton's. And I want to bring up another guy, and I think we're going to kind of talk about them as I see them as two problems that are very different, but they're connected within the GOP. Paul Nehlen, and I included an article about him from the Milwaukee Journey Sentinel. Paul Nehlen, or I think maybe his name's pronounced Nehlen, was for many of us who rejected the the Mitt Romney style of the Republican Party, and Paul Ryan, by the way, we rejected him too. For a long time, Paul Nehlen was pretty much our hope to be the guy to unseat Mitt Romney, or to unseat Paul Ryan, excuse me. But it's becoming clear that his agenda is not going to bring him there, because if you look at his Twitter feed, if you look at any social media where he's active, the man is obviously obsessed not with unseating Paul Ryan, but with Jews, and it's pretty well. I think he's been banned from Twitter. But maybe on Facebook. So I still have his page liked. If you look at his page, it's pretty obvious that it has nothing to do with the campaign. Now, maybe he thinks that the real campaign has to be against Jewish control of the media or something. There's he's criticizing Trump for commuting. What's his name? I actually did a piece on him earlier this year. His name is Shalom Rabashkin. So he has an issue with him, saying that why is it that you commuted Shalom Rabashkin, but you didn't commute the sentence of Clint Lawrence? Now that's fine, but he's using one commutation by saying that he's pretty much a tool of the Jews. Also, He says nearly half of Israeli Jews believe in ethnic cleansing. Um, this one says Philo. This is all. This is all, by the way, within. This is just today. So he says Philo-Semites will lie for the Jews. Anti-Semites will lie against the Jews. Truth tellers will tell the truth regardless of ethnicity. So, I'm fine with the guy saying whatever he wants. I don't feel threatened by people. And he also has I don't know if you saw it, but he had a meme where it says that all of these school shooters were Jews. I don't think, first of all, Jared Lofgren or Lofner was, I don't believe he was Jewish at all. I could even look that up, from Arizona. So, I mean, there's no evidence that he's Jewish. It, most of the issues that are talked about him are substance abuse. He was talked, there's the same crap is peddled every time. Let me see. Also had James Holmes. James Holmes was the Aurora shooter, and he was a Lutheran. So technically, that makes him more like Paul Nehlen than he makes him a Jew. So I'm sorry, Paul, but you're going to have to find some deeper evidence than a meme. And again, I don't think that. I think at this point, whether he pulls out or not is irrelevant. I don't think he's running to be in Congress. I think he's basically consigned himself to the fact that he has now crossed over to beyond the alt-right, because I actually I've spoken to white nationalists on this program. A lot of them they don't care about Jews or religion or anything. Or if they do, it's only because they think they think that in their minds, white people deserve the same amount of agency to determine their own path that Jews or blacks do. And that's their opinion. I don't really see that as a deal breaker for talking to them, even if I disagree with them. But you have to realize that Paul Nehlen, being the only consequential alternative to Paul Ryan in Wisconsin on the Republican side, that poses a major problem for people wanting a truly conservative and small government minded representative. Yeah, I believe he probably believes in some of that stuff, and I'm not going to claim that he's not a conservative, but when you're posting all that stuff and your focus is on that, and you're not even talking about Paul Ryan most of the time, you're not even talking about the issues that you have with the federal government and its outsized influence. Instead, and by the way, he started this because he took the bait from a Jewish liberal journalist that was trying to get him to say something to prove that he's an anti-Jewish guy, and he ended up doing it. So he took the bait, and then he owned it. So him complaining now about it and saying, "Oh, for example," he uses that quote, "To know who holds the power, look at who you can't criticize." Yeah, fine. I mean, if that's your view on the world, good. That's fine. I don't care. But Paul Nehlen has basically shown that his agenda is not geared towards defeating Paul Ryan, because if it was, it would be focused more on countering Ryan's agenda than it would be on fighting the entire Jewish media, as he calls it. It's a strategy issue. His beliefs. I am fine with people believing in things that I find to be ridiculous and stupid, and I'm a freedom of speech supporter as far as I can see it. I wouldn't say absolute, but in this case, I'm absolutely fine with Paul Nehlen's rantings on the internet. Go ahead. I don't want him banned from Facebook. I don't want him. I wouldn't have wanted him banned from Twitter for his other ridiculous tweet where he showed. Let me see. I'll even show it to you. Better not. I might get flagged. But basically, I'll describe it to you. See, because Paul Nehlen does it, I have to control myself because of Paul Nehlen. So he tweeted out a photo of the Cheddar Man, which is that weird theory now circulating that the original British person was black, and you know, he took a photo of that black that that black graphic recreation of the original Britain and superimposed it on the face of Meghan Markle, who is Prince. I think he's Prince. She's Prince Harry's fiance in Britain. So, he didn't. It wasn't enough just to talk about how the Jews control and everything. Now he's trying to, riff on the whole mixed marriage thing, mixed race marriages and whatever. So he clearly he's not. It's not even that he's trying to reduce government or whatever. He is a full alt-right person. He's basically Chris Cantwell registered to run in an election. And I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I don't think it's going to go that far. I don't think that many people will want to be associated with that type of campaign because he's clearly blown a gasket. And even Steve Bannon, who has also his stock has plummeted, pulled his support for Nehlen a couple months ago. I was kind of waiting a while to see how far down the road Paul Nehlen went. He's gone pretty as far as you can probably go at the moment without stepping into the whole brother Nathaniel mode. And who knows, that might be on the cards next. And there's already a GOP candidate in Illinois who has no chance of getting elected because it's a strong Democratic district, named Art Jones, who is an open National Socialist who thinks Donald Trump is a tool of Jewish influence or whatever. So they're already making news of that guy. So yeah, I think Paul Ryan will probably, unfortunately, be able to survive. And getting back to that, it's because of issues like Paul Nehlen that pull the oppositionist wing of the GOP in a direction that has nothing to do with changing the way Washington works. It has to do with being ostentatious and outrageous at the same time. It's because of that wing that people like Paul Ryan survive. It's because of that wing that people like Mitt Romney are able to continue to stand for senior positions at the national level, like the Senate. It's because of that Bob Corker announced that he's running again for Tennessee Senate, running for re-election, which I think in his case he's probably going to lose. Now with Mitt Romney, I'll tell you why I am not going to even consider supporting and telling people to vote for him in any way. If you look around the country, there's virtually nobody left from 2012 who actually is openly cheerleading that, oh, we were right, Mitt Romney would have been, we were right, it's great, Mitt Romney, we voted correctly. No, nobody cares. And his candidacy was an absolute train wreck at the time. He was inept. He totally ran on this whole thing where I'm a corporate businessman. I know how to properly run things. I'm a success, Olympics, blah, 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 and everything. Nobody, I believe, in the true camp of people who opposed Obamacare, who opposed, a lot of the governmental overreach, the us Ron Paul supporters, and Ron Paul gets a lot of shit for all of his crazy foreign policy stuff. But we were saying at the time that the surveillance state is expanding, that big government is expanding, that these powers will be abused. Did Mitt Romney say anything about that? Absolutely not. Mitt Romney was probably as close to a controlled opposition candidate in the history of the United States as you can get. And I would say until Hillary Clinton in 2016, he might have been the worst major party candidate ever selected. Bob Dole wasn't great. Um, Al Gore was sort of he really screwed himself in that election in 2000. Al Gore to lose to George Bush. John Kerry was no genius, but yeah, on the Republican side, I would say that yeah, Mitt Romney is a disaster, and to have him in the Senate is basically it's putting the Republican Party in a state of complete and total suspension as far as which direction it's going to go. Why would we go in the direction of somebody who instituted Romney Care? A system that was deceptive. It claimed that it was providing affordable health care for the citizens of the state, but in reality, it was subsidized entirely by federal aid. This guy is the greatest fraud that you could possibly look for, apart from McCain and Jeb Bush and all of the usual suspects. Yeah, Mitt Romney is not going to receive any support from me, and probably not from anybody that I talk to on a regular basis that considers themselves a conservative or Republican voter. He's one of the reasons that I still don't want to join a party or organization. And we might talk about that this week with a local guest from you know Republican politics. And I think that's enough about him. We covered him a bit in the live stream yesterday. But beyond Mitt Romney, there's another fraud who is talking a lot ahead of her Senate Senate reelection campaign in 2018, and that's another person from the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren. Her esteemed grace of Harvard University. So Elizabeth Warren has been playing a game for over 6 years now concerning her alleged usage of Native American Indian ancestry in order to get an academic position at Harvard. And it came out in the Washington Journal, the Wall Street Journal today. It's called Elizabeth Warren's Rough Week. And, we're just going to read some of it. It says, are there American Indians who do not belong to any tribe? Senator Elizabeth Warren argues that there is at least one. And on Wednesday, the Massachusetts Democrat made her case to the National Congress of American Indians. Recently, the Boston Globe explained why Miss Warren needs to address the issue. There's a ghost haunting Elizabeth Warren, by the way, I have that article also in the description. So I have both of these articles, both this one and the one that it cites from the Boston Globe. So there's a ghost haunting Elizabeth Warren as she ramps up for a possible 2020 presidential bid and a re-election campaign in Massachusetts this year. Her enduring and undocumented claims of Native American ancestry. As Warren is mentioned as a serious presidential contender in 2020, even some who should be her natural allies say Warren has displayed a stubborn unwillingness to address the gap between the story she was told of American Indians in the family tree and a dearth of hard evidence to back it up. And of course, people who are not natural allies have been rather less charitable. President Donald Trump has taken to calling her Pocahontas, and other critics have called her a fake Indian. The website Mass Live has published a copy of Senator Warren's prepared remarks for the Wednesday speech. It says, I get why some people think that there's hate to be made here. You won't find my family members on any rolls, and I'm not enrolled in a tribe. And I want to make something clear. I respect that distinction. I understand that tribal membership is determined by tribes and only by tribes. I never used my family tree to get a break or get ahead. I never used it to advance my career. So it says, she seems to be acknowledging that no one in her family is a member of any tribe, and also claiming that she never used her family tree to get ahead. But did she get ahead by pretending to be part of someone else's family tree? According to the Globe, in 1984, she contributed 5 recipes to a Native American cookbook entitled Pow Wow Chow, a collective of recipes from families of the 5 civilized tribes: Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Cree, and Seminole. or Creek. In the book, which was edited by her cousin and unearthed during her 2012 campaign by the Boston Herald, her name is listed as Elizabeth Warren Cherokee. Warren also listed herself as a minority in a legal directory published by the Association of American Law Schools from 1986 to 1995. She's never provided a clear answer on why she stopped self-identifying. She was also listed as a Native American in federal forms filed by the law schools at Harvard University and University of Pennsylvania, where she worked. And in 1996, as Harvard Law School was being criticized for lacking diversity, a spokesman for the law school told the Harvard Crimson that Warren was Native American. Warren has not formally claimed to be Native American during her time in the Senate, where the chamber's historian lists 3 former senators as having American Indian heritage. Senators self-report their ethnicity to the historian's office. Her office has declined to comment on why, but as of this week's address, it seems she is once again claiming Native American heritage. According to the prepared remarks, she says, "My mother's family was part Native American, and my daddy's parents were bitterly opposed to their relationship. So in 1932, when mother was 19 and daddy had just turned 20, they eloped." As far as this column can tell, Senator Warren has still not presented evidence to back up the claim that her family is part Native American, not for the insinuation that her paternal, nor for the insinuation that her paternal grandparents were racists. Even if they were as hard-hearted as Miss Warren suggests, if a Native American ancestor was so distant on her mother's side that the senator cannot even come up with a name, how would her father's family have even known? Later in her Wednesday remarks, Senator Warren creates still more confusion. Having just renewed her claim of Native American ancestry, she then appears to cast doubt on it by addressing Native Americans in the second person instead of the first person plural. She speaks of your story and your history and your people. Doesn't she mean to say our people? While the senator mulls over her identity, it seems that few voters in the early primary state next door are identifying themselves as Warren supporters. This week, the University of New Hampshire's Granite State poll reports that former Senate Vice President Joe Biden is the favorite for 2020, with a support of 35% of Democratic primary voters. So, okay, and then Bernie Sanders is second with 24, and Senator Warren is third at 15. So the political news is discouraging, and the policy news isn't so hot either, given the changes underway at her bureaucratic legacy, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Charles Gabriel of Capital Alpha Partners says that progressive dreams have lately been dying hard at the agency. Acting Director Mick Mulvaney is spoiling all the fun by requiring agency staff to remain within the legal boundaries of their authority. He noted this week in the Bureau's long-term plan, "We have committed to fulfill the Bureau's statutory responsibilities, but go no further." Indeed, this should be an ironclad promise for any federal agency. Pushing the envelope in pursuit of other objectives ignores the will of the American people as established in law by their representatives in Congress and the White House. Pushing the envelope also risks trampling upon the liberties of our citizens or interfering with the sovereignty or autonomy of the states or Indian tribes. Senator Warren has opposed Mr. Mulvaney's leadership, but perhaps she should consider giving his respect for the authority of her people. So, I think that was kind of a bit of a dig for to nobody on the part of Mick Mulvaney with the Indian tribe thing. But understand what the issue is here, and it's the same issue that I would say is true to what I brought up with Keith Ellison. If you want to claim something such as Indian heritage, then you better be able to back it up with evidence. With Keith Ellison, his objection to being associated with Louis Farrakhan, he always blames on the media. He blames it on the fact that people are dredging up his past, despite his what he says is a 10-year congressional record. That's what he said a couple years ago when he was running for, or a little more than a year ago, running for DNC chair. That knowing that you have a weakness that the media can use does not mean that you can just go to the media and say, "Hey, you're just chasing after me and persecuting me over something that isn't important." Well, if you've been dishonest about something and you're just running away from it consistently, as somebody standing for office, people who aren't running for public office, maybe they have a different standard. You know, people have a right to privacy, but this is somebody, Elizabeth Warren, who throughout her career, obviously, given all that evidence, has used American Indian ties to support, showing that she has some sort of minority cachet or whatever you say, cachet with you know, progressivism, and it's falling apart. And true progressives, I would argue, should probably go towards somebody who has a lot more credibility than Elizabeth Warren. You know, as much as I criticize him, Bernie Sanders had, I mean, his claims to being Jewish are substantiated. The fact that I think that his expression of it as a joke is a different matter. But I think he has a consistent, uh, you know, at least he's consistently honest about who he is. Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, I think she's Indian American. Yeah, that's yeah, Indian American from India. Uh, yeah, that's somebody whose record for honesty on this topic is absolutely ironclad. You know, Nina Turner, obviously, who is black, but um, this identity politics issue is coming to play in all three of those races. Why is Paul Nehlen trying to run in Wisconsin? Obviously, he is from Wisconsin. He has every right to do it, but he's trying to say, you know, I'm a representative of the white people, the good white people that you know that have been betrayed by Paul Ryan. That's his not me. That's his interpretation of it. Um, so it's an identity politics platform. Why is Mitt Romney running in Utah? Why couldn't he have carpet bagged over to, I don't know, Wyoming or Tennessee or one of those other states? It's because of his Mormon religion, his Latter-day Saints. He has no other state where he could get elected. He obviously wouldn't get elected in Massachusetts because given the choice between a Democratic fraud and a Republican fraud, they'd obviously go for Elizabeth Warren. And he wouldn't get elected in Michigan either, where his dad was governor. And and then Elizabeth Warren is running away from identity politics because it's come to bite her in the ass. So that's about it. I think that you know, you can observe between both parties. There's people who are just they've sold their souls in order to be symbols of something that they betray. You know, there's nothing in the platforms or in the records of any of those three politicians that is really going to serve the people. You know, you have one guy who is clearly going off the rails, talking. I mean, look, if you want to believe in an international Jewish conspiracy that is out to get you, Paul Nehlen, fine, but you're not going to actually serve the interests of the voters of, I think it's the 3rd congressional district of Wisconsin, by talking exclusively about that on your Facebook page. That's just not. There are other issues for the people of Wisconsin besides me and you know, my people. Okay, so I think it's a real pathetic tactic that you're taking. You know, maybe do it on your spare time, you know, when you're not campaigning. Maybe campaign first and then go after me, because you know, you have to keep your eyes on the prize, buddy. Then you have Warren, who nobody knows what she stands for anymore because she did endorse Hillary Clinton. And then you have Romney, who stands for Mitt Romney and redeeming his failures in 2012 and 2008. So let me know what you think. Subscribe to my channel, share this video, and tell me, do you think any of these people will be elected in 2018?